The illusion of exhaustion. You're not tired. You're distracted. And that difference is costing you your life. You think you need a vacation, you think you need more sleep, you think you're working too much. But your body isn't failing, your mind is saturated. There's a brutal difference between being exhausted from building something and being intoxicated by constant stimulation. When you get home, drop your keys, collapse onto the couch, that's not the honest fatigue of someone who created. That's the hangover of someone who processed mental junk all day. And what do next? You say you need to unwind. So you grab your phone, the blue light hits your face, your thumb starts scrolling almost on its own. Short videos, urgent headlines, curated lives, a flood of fragments. You call that rest. But rest doesn't speed up your heart. Rest doesn't fracture your attention. Rest doesn't leave your head heavier than before. Distraction doesn't restore. Distraction numbs. You're not relaxing, you're sedating. And the worst part? It feels harmless. You complain that your mind won't stop. But in the very first second of silence, in the elevator, in line, in bed, you rush to fill the void. You say you want peace, but you choose noise. You say you want focus, but you feed dispersion. And this is where it hurts. You're not exhausted from producing, you're sick from consuming. And admitting that is uncomfortable because it's easier to blame work, easier to blame the world than to examine your habits. We learn to hate boredom. We learn to fear silence. We learn that pause equals loss. So you erased the gaps. You listen while you eat, reply while you walk, watch while you wait. You are never just there. And without pause, there is no integration. Without silence, there is no thought. Whoever lives reacting is not living. They're just passing through time. The year flies, memory fades, the week dissolves. Life becomes a blur lit by notifications. Your attention is the only real currency you have, and you hand it out for free to whoever shouts the loudest. The exhaustion you feel is not lack of energy, it's lack of sovereignty. You didn't lose strength, you lost command of your focus. And as long as you try to cure that with more entertainment, you'll keep calling distraction rest. You're not tired, you're distracted. And if you don't understand the mechanism behind that, you'll spend the next few years blaming work, blaming time, blaming the world for a problem that lives in your pocket. Now the question changes. What is happening inside your head when you say you can't focus? Because what looks like weakness might be something else. And that is what we need to face next.
The reactive life. The elevator is slow. The light turns red. Your friend steps away from the table. What happens in the first 3 seconds? Your hand moves on its own. Pocket, screen, scroll. You didn't decide to do it. You obeyed. Why do 3 minutes of waiting feel unbearable? It's not boredom. It's fear. Silence forces you to hear yourself. The questions you avoid about your work, your relationship, your direction, only surface in the pause. So you drown them with blue light. It works like a painkiller. The glowing screen protects you from yourself. You think you're chasing novelty, but you're chasing escape. We convinced ourselves that we need to stay connected. We say it so we don't miss anything. The truth? We're desperate not to feel anything. So We created the reactive life. Look at your morning. You wake up and react. React to an email. React to irrelevant news. React to a comment. Your day isn't built, it's answered. Answer after answer after answer to the demands of strangers. You've become a terminal. Input, output, input, output. Where are you in all of that?
Being busy is not producing. Movement is not progress. This fragmentation comes at a cost: continuity. Think about the last time you read 10 pages without checking your phone, or watched a full film without a second screen, or had a conversation without looking down. You've lost the ability to stay. A mind that doesn't go deep doesn't retain. That's why your days feel identical. The week passes, you don't remember Tuesday. Memory demands presence. If you're not there, it doesn't record. You become a ghost inside your own biography. A reactive life is a life without an author. And that creates a fatigue sleep can't fix. It's not the body that needs to stop, it's the processor that needs to cool down. But you won't let it. You take the phone to bed, fall asleep with the glow on your face, wake up and check. Your mind has become a room with the lights always on. And you wonder why you feel anxious, why nothing lasts, why nothing satisfies. The answer is in your hand. You trained your brain on artificial spikes. Slow feels boring, depth feels inconvenient. You killed contemplation, and you didn't even notice. Without contemplation, reality becomes uncomfortable, because real life is slow. Love is slow. Character is slow. By rejecting boredom, you rejected the rhythm of life. Now you're speeding inside while standing still outside. The price of distraction is your own depth. Don't fool yourself by blaming only the algorithm. Yes, it was designed to hook you, but there's a partner in this. The partner is your desire not to be here. As long as you see yourself as a victim, nothing changes. Your phone doesn't hijack your attention, you hand it over. The problem isn't technology, it's the void you're trying to cover with it.
The silent erosion. Let's look at the real cost of this. Not the professional cost. It doesn't matter whether you submit the report on time, whether you answer emails quickly. What's at stake here is heavier. The real cost of distraction is biographical. Think about last week. Try to retrieve, right now, 3 specific moments from your Tuesday. Not tasks completed. I mean textures, conversations, smells. It's difficult. Everything feels like one uniform mass, a gray blur. That happens because memory requires friction. For a moment to imprint itself, you have to be fully inside it. But digital distraction is smooth. You slide through your days. Nothing sticks. Nothing marks you. Life becomes a continuous stream of reactions. Months pass, and a strange sensation appears, as if the year evaporated. It didn't evaporate. It simply wasn't lived. It was processed. Whoever lives in constant novelty loses the ability to retain the past. The blur you see when you look back is the trace of a mind that never anchored anywhere. A life not retained is not truly lived. And that absence spills over. It affects the people around you. Observe the silent dynamics of your relationships. Look at the dinner table. The phone is there, maybe face down, maybe on silent, but it occupies space. It is the third presence in the conversation. A tourist in your own life. You are physically there,
but part of your mind remains suspended, monitoring your pocket, waiting for the light to flash. The people around you feel it. There is a brutal difference between being present and merely being available. When attention is divided, a silent hierarchy is established. It's not malicious, but the message is clear. Whatever might happen on this screen competes with you. Attention is the most elemental form of love. When attention fragments, affection arrives in fragments too. We create a loneliness that comes with company. And this leads us to the deepest layer of erosion: identity. A biography requires continuity to make sense. A film that cuts every 30 seconds does not tell a story. It becomes noise. Our routines begin to resemble that. We read 2 pages and stop. We hear half an idea and check the feed. Thought does not unfold, it stutters. We live in jolts, and that creates the sensation of being a tourist in your own life. We pass through days, but we do not inhabit them. We move through the week waiting for the weekend, and move through the weekend waiting for something else. We are not steering. We are being carried by a current of information created by others. You don't live your days, you pass through them. And the final imprint of this settles into character. Character is habit. It is what we repeatedly do. By avoiding boredom 1,000 times a day, we train the brain for escape. We teach ourselves that at the first sign of mental discomfort, there is an easy exit in our pocket. Resilience weakens, not because of moral failure, but because of training. We grow impatient with anything slow, complex, difficult. When life demands that we solve a real problem, have a difficult conversation, build something that takes time, the instinct is to flee. Not out of cowardice, out of habit. You feel something shifting. You feel life becoming lighter, but lighter in the worst sense. Lighter because it lacks weight. The subtle anxiety on Sunday night is not fear of Monday. It is the awareness that another week was spent reacting to the world instead of shaping it. You know this. Deep down, we all do. Time keeps moving. The question is not how to recover lost hours. The question is how to recover authorship.
The turn toward responsibility. We've reached the most delicate point in this conversation. Up until now, we've talked about what excess does to you. The fatigue, the blur in your memory, the fragmentation. It's tempting to stop there. It's comfortable to conclude that we are victims of a system designed to capture us, to believe the algorithm is an unbeatable predator, that we stand no chance against engineered addiction. That narrative is perfect. It explains your exhaustion, and most importantly, it absolves you. If the system is to blame, nothing needs to change. But there is a problem with that story. It is only half true. Is the algorithm aggressive? Yes. Was it designed to retain you? Without question. But it does not possess coercive power. No one tied your hands. No one forces you to unlock your screen for the 50th time today. The algorithm invites. You accept. The notification sounds. It is a request. You respond. There is a silent complicity between your distraction and the technology, and we have to look at your role in that agreement. Why is the resistance so low? Often the content isn't even interesting. You know it's irrelevant while you're watching, and yet you continue. You continue because distraction serves a function. Distraction is not an assault. Distraction is a refuge. The algorithm does not steal your attention. You hand it over because you don't know what to do with it.
Authorship.
Consider the alternative. If you were not distracted right now, where would you be? In silence, facing your own life, the conversations you postponed, the decisions you avoided. Reality has weight. It demands posture. The infinite feed demands nothing. It only asks that you swipe. It's an exchange. We trade sovereignty for anesthesia. We trade depth for immediate comfort. We don't distract ourselves only out of weakness. We distract ourselves because boredom unsettles us. We prefer access to stillness. It is uncomfortable to admit this, but as long as you treat your phone as an intruder, you will keep opening the door. The intruder did not break in. You opened, and you keep it open. Owning that changes everything. If you are the one handing it over, you are the one who can stop. Stop saying, "I don't have time." Your screen time report proves otherwise. You don't invest that time, you dissipate it. You sacrifice it to avoid the demand of building something real. Living on autopilot is a form of renunciation. It is outsourcing the authorship of your life. It is allowing an external intelligence to suggest what you should feel and desire. Is it simpler? Yes. But simplicity is not always freedom. There is no freedom without self-mastery. If you cannot say no to a glowing stimulus, your freedom is an illusion. Freedom is not the ability to access everything. Freedom is the ability to ignore what does not matter. There is no freedom without the capacity to deny the stimulus. The world will continue shouting. Notifications will continue arriving. They will continue competing for your gaze. The question is not what they will do. The question is what you will do. Will you continue consuming whatever is placed before you? Or will you assume the adult responsibility of closing the door? Authorship of your life requires reclaiming control of what enters. Do not wait for the world to become quiet. It will not. Silence is an internal construction, and it begins when you decide to stop listening to what does not matter. The responsibility is yours, and that is good news. Because if the responsibility is yours, the key is in your hand. Now we need to talk about how to live differently, not with tricks, with principles. The path through principles. How do we get out of this? Not with apps, not with temporary blocks, not with a weekend detox. That's cosmetic. If the problem is a posture of surrender, the solution requires a posture of reclaiming. You don't heal a crisis of meaning with tricks. You heal it with principles. The first is the sovereignty of attention. Your mind is a house. For a long time, the door has been left open. Any stimulus enters without knocking. Reclaiming sovereignty means placing a gatekeeper at that door. It means deciding what enters and what stays outside. This is selective ignorance. It is not alienation, it is hygiene. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to have an opinion about everything. You do not need to react to everything. Choosing not to know is how you protect what already matters. When the noise decreases, presence returns. And that leads to the second principle, the dignity of presence. We have forgotten how to do one thing at a time. We confuse agitation with efficiency. But agitation is not depth, it is only haste. Restore integrity to each act. If you are eating, just eat. If you are reading, just read. If you are speaking with someone, be there. Look into their eyes. Forget the rest. Try having lunch alone without your phone. You will feel discomfort. Your hand will reach for the device. Your mind will ask for distraction. Resist calmly. That urge is simply a habit being rewritten.
The inner reconstruction. Do not do one thing at a time to be more productive. Do one thing at a time to become human again. When you stop fragmenting time, time slows down. Memory returns. Life regains texture. And then the third principle emerges, the practice of silence. Not the silence of speech, the silence of consumption. Boredom is not a mistake, it is soil. Imagine a glass filled with water and sand. If you keep shaking it, everything becomes cloudy. Distraction is that agitation. Silence is when you place the glass down. The sand settles, the water clears, and only then can you see your ideas, your decisions, your truth. None of that appears in constant motion. This reconstruction is training. The muscles of attention have weakened. You will fail. You will get distracted. Do not blame yourself. Simply return, gently, as many times as necessary. The goal is not to abandon the world, it is to live in it consciously, to use technology without being used by it. That is authorship. Silence is not emptiness, it is the space where life regains weight. This decision is internal, and it begins simply. It begins the next time boredom appears and you choose not to run.
The inner echo. Refined version. After all of this, one quiet question remains. Where were you while your life was happening? Not in the grand decisions, but in the details, in the in-between moments, in the seconds that felt too small to matter. Life does not escape all at once. It slips away in light distractions, in automatic responses, in silences you rush to fill. You do not need to fight the world. You need to return inward. Because the problem was never the screen. It was absence. The absence of you. We learned to live halfway, half attentive, half present, half awake. And that creates a life that feels too light. Light because it leaves no imprint. Light because it creates no memory. Light because it builds no depth. But depth is not something you chase. It is something you allow. It emerges when you sustain a moment, when you do not escape the pause, when you accept the weight of being fully present in a single place. Life does not demand speed. It demands presence. It does not demand performance. It demands involvement. And when presence becomes whole, something shifts internally. Time stops slipping. Conversations stop feeling like noise. Days stop feeling like something to cross through. You begin to inhabit what you live. You do not need a new routine. You need a new posture. Less escape, more staying. Less noise, more awareness. The world will remain accelerated, but you do not have to accelerate with it. The noise will continue to exist, but you do not have to host it. There is a space no one can invade, the space of your attention. And when that space is protected, life regains weight. It regains texture. It regains density. The question is not how much time has passed.
The question is how much of you was truly present in it. And maybe that is already enough to begin differently.